And in that day, declares the Lord, I will cut off your horses from among you, and will destroy your chariots. And I will cut off the cities of your land, and throw down all your strongholds. And I will cut off sorceries from your hand. And you shall have no more tellers of fortunes. And I will cut off your carved images, and your pillars from among you. And you shall bow down no more to the work of your hands. And I will root out your Asherah images from among you, and destroy your cities. And in anger and wrath I will execute vengeance on the nations that did not obey. Dude, this is a serious, serious message that Micah has for the people of his day. Do you feel any connection, any sense of, could this happen in our day? Could this be a message that we as a people need to hear? A people in prosperity, a people in moral decline, a people that struggle with idolatry of various sorts. What's disturbing to me about Micah, however, is the response that the people have. They didn't want to acknowledge the truth. They wanted to be, like me, in answering my daughter and saying, no, everything is going to be just fine. A tornado could never hit our house. They didn't want to prepare. They didn't want to live in reality. Micah 2:6, the people respond and say, do not preach. One should not preach of such things. Disgrace will not overtake us. In Micah 3:11, the people are described as having misplaced confidence. They actually call out God's name and they lean on the Lord and say, is not the Lord in the midst of us? No disaster shall come upon us. So the context of this book is that the prevailing winds of their culture have created a moral tornado alley. And Micah is warning them of the truth. He is willing to do the hard work of explaining to the 4-year-old that the tornado could possibly come. Today we live in times, I think, that are at least as bad as then. Okay? I think our times today are at least as bad as they were then. What are we doing? How are we responding? When I say that, is there any bit of a 4-year-old kid inside of you that gets a little freaked out? That kind of wonders what could be happening? As I've thought about this more, in fact, I get a little less frightened about the tornado and the flying debris of our culture. And I get a little bit more fearful of the tornado of God's wrath, if I'm honest with myself. The coming judgment of God. So the question is, how do we stay grounded in the midst of our cultural tornado? In the real possibility, really, the inevitability of the coming tornado of God's wrath. The beauty of this book and the point of this whole analogy is that we can indeed prepare. We can prepare. Micah offers hope in this book for the remnant of God. It's not only truth, it's not only warning, it's not only prophecy. There is hope. Which brings us to Micah 6:8. Let me read Micah 6:8. He has told you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God? Here's the point. In today's tornado alley, we can stay safely grounded by doing justice, by loving kindness, and by walking humbly. Micah provides us with hope. He provides us with security. He provides us with a way forward. In the summer of 1996, the movie Twister was released. You remember that? It was actually nominated for 2 Oscars. Not for the acting. Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, good though they were, did not earn those Oscars. The Oscars that the movie got nominated for were for Best Sound Effects and Best Visual Effects. Michael Crichton wrote the screenplay to that movie. He passed away, back in November. Wrote the series for ER. Pastor Jake would be proud of us. This movie is set in Oklahoma. We're representing. The story is that the largest storm to hit Oklahoma in more than half a century is brewing, and it promises to drop multiple twisters on Tornado Alley. Two rival groups of scientists have been waiting to earn their place in meteorological history as they pursue the storm. I'm going to show you a clip. In this clip, Bill Paxton is Bill, Helen Hunt is Joe, and they find themselves in the middle of a tornado. Let's watch.
God.
Did you hear what he said in the middle of that? Probably not. He said, grab a hold and hold on. The only way they survived that was by holding on to something that was securely grounded, something that wasn't moving. Micah 6:8 provides us with that grounding. It's the kind of verse you memorize and you spend your whole life learning how to live. It's a verse that's called in the Old Testament the high watermark in the Old Testament. It stands alongside the type of verse in the New Testament when Jesus is asked to sum up all of the law and the prophets, and he essentially says, love God and love your neighbor. This is that kind of verse. Short and sweet, clear and simple. Straightforward, but not easy. It's like the book of John. Augustine called the book of John a pool deep enough for an elephant to swim in and shallow enough for a child not to drown. That's what this verse is like. You can memorize it tonight and probably never forget it. Micah 6:8 is the answer in the midst of this warning. It's the hope that Micah provides. It gives us three things to hold on to.